Chelsea at the Movies! Space Edition. Because it's a space movie.
Oh, okay.
So, we went to see the new movie, First Man, starring Ryan Gosling.
And a slew of
other notables. I forget
cast.
all of them.
What'd you like about the movie?
Well, I love the depiction of a man's struggle with a really difficult, hard thing to achieve in life. And then I also like the parts about him going to the moon.
What I really liked was, first of all, I guess I knew very little about Neil Armstrong.
She's more of a Buzz Aldrin fan.
I knew very little about him as well. But what I really liked about this movie was it was clear that the movie makers had a priority that this movie was going to be realistic.
Mm.
So it was realistic for the time period that was set in, which was the 60s, and then all the experiences of the characters throughout the movie. Everything was just meant to be very realistic.
Very authentic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like what you said there. Like, so the husband and wife dynamic was very 60s. It wasn't, they didn't try to take any of today's values or beliefs and thrust them back into time about these characters, which is fine if you do that in fiction, but this was a movie that wanted to be historically accurate, I think, and that was welcome.
And so all the interactions with the family and people were all really realistic. And then, of course, all the things associated with the mission were also, they stuck to keeping it very real. Was there anything you did not like about the movie?
When I saw this movie, I was interested in seeing in it, and I wanted really to love it. I did really like the movie. But going into the movie, I wondered why the movie was almost 2.5 hours long. And then when the movie's over, I still wondered why it was 2.5 hours long. So basically, I thought that there were some things that could have been cut out of the movie that weren't. And I thought it was a little self-indulgent.
Yeah, so the movie was a little long. When the trailers came out for this movie, for some reason, I just wasn't very interested in seeing it, which is surprising because who doesn't like a biographical movie? Like, I love biographical movies.
Or better yet, which Rachel McCarson doesn't like biographical movies? Because when I saw the trailer, it was like, this is a Rachel movie, you know?
But I really wasn't interested, and so to speak to, what I liked about it was how realistic it was. I think that's also what made it not as exciting because it was very real. It was just something where if you made it more fictional, you might put things in it to make it more exciting.
Yeah.
And so, maybe that's what I sensed in the trailers. It's what was actually true in the movie. So I did like it, but it was a quiet movie is how I would describe it. While dealing with very big things, it was a quiet movie. And
just what you said, imagine, same movie, everything is exactly the same. And then at the end of the movie, when he's standing on the moon, if Ryan Gosling just came out and he was like, boom, what would have happened? I don't know, but it would have been awesome.
That might say more about me, that maybe my taste or whatever in movies could stand to mature a little bit.
It's your favorite time! Rachel, go, wait, or skip!
I say go.
Okay. I'm also going to say go. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed myself there. I wasn't bored for the most part, and I really liked most of the movie.
Yeah, I was just concerned that I knew so little about the mission to putting a man on the moon, and I feel like to honor all the work that went into that people should go and see it.
Yeah, so spoiler time.
Spoilers.
Space spoiler robot. Why is it always a robot? I don't know.
Could you do an alien voice? Or is that also a robot voice?
Hello, Flash. Okay, that's not an alien. Hey, listen, I was really surprised. What I didn't see coming in this movie was that...
You're going to say something ridiculous. Say it!
I was going to say, in a jokey way, that I didn't expect the truth to be that the mission to the moon was indeed a hoax perpetrated by the government. But since you ruined the joke, I guess I won't do it.
So,
I swear to God, I'll get the lightsaber back home.
The realism really was throughout the whole movie. So you brought up last night how from the lead character's perspective, like when he's in space, we only see through the small little window. We didn't get a ton of wide, expansive shots. So I remember we chose to go see this in IMAX because I was like, oh, let's go see an IMAX because it's a space movie.
But you could have watched this movie on your phone, y'all.
Yeah, it's not necessary to see it.
Not even an iPhone Max. I mean, like a regular iPhone.
But also the like family relations. So at one point, like Kelsey's like, "Gosh, that kid is just like insufferable." Like one of their children. But
that's like real life.
Yeah, real life kids aren't like super like jokey and making jokes with adults and making connections.
Or like super like, oh, I'm so lovable and cute. That's not true.
Like
it's not.
Most kids are just doing like silly things, and like we love children, but they're not always making adult connections.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in TV and movies, like the kids are just little adults.
Or the little or they're like really like in touch with the situation.
Yeah.
What's going on in emotion in this movie? All these things were happening, and the kid's like, "Can I go simply?"
Yeah,
and that's like it is in real life.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
like
fine. They're kids. They're supposed to be like that.
Dies and they want to play outside.
Yeah.
You know, like. So even, and then they showed like interactions between like neighbors, like having dinner together, and just some of the like kind of mundane like stories that aren't like, you know, you wouldn't write in a script, but this was real. So they really kept that throughout the whole movie, which I really respected. That's what it was.
Yeah, and I thought this was a really excellent film. Again, I think that they really stuck to the historical perspective, what it took to get there, but also who these people were, and I really liked that. They didn't make the characters, the main character, of course, Neil Armstrong, but also the surrounding characters. I don't think they tried to make them fit any kind of character.
Like archetype or something
I think that this was this seemed like a portrayal of this is who Neil Armstrong was, and he was very particular and just a different kind of guy. And I love that they did that. Also love this movie in a way because it dealt with a very important issue in the world. And like I said at the beginning, I alluded to this being like the most important mission of his life. Right, but that wasn't the moon landing. The most important thing for the character, for Neil Armstrong, was getting over the death of his daughter, who I guess had some kind of cancer, and she died really young. And that's how the movie starts. And then anybody who's been in any kind of grief situation, it doesn't have to be the death of a child, which I, of course, wouldn't even know how to fathom. I don't have children. But any kind of grief of loss of anybody that you can think of has been in that position where, like, you don't know what to do, and you feel, and like his way of dealing with that was to withdraw. And so many of us do that. And he withdrew from his family, from his other child, and even from people around him, and that was a big part of the movie. And so I've loved that, and I loved the end part.
And kind of like he ended up withdrawing till like he's standing
on the moon
with one other person on the moon,
and he's like not with the other person; he's standing there by himself.
And that's where
he's thinking about his daughter who he lost, and like for him to process that. And then the end of the movie, he's quarantined, but his wife is there, and they can see through the window, and you can kind of see him doing his best. And it wasn't like over the top, like, I'm back now and I'm great. It was him trying to reach out.
Make a connection. He had not even made attempts.
So that was the most important thing, probably. I would argue that if not in this world, in the next, Neil Armstrong would probably correctly say that the most important thing he did in his life was be a husband, a father, and a friend to people, and just how he had to deal with the deep mourning of that, of his precious child. I think it was a really beautifully made film. I really liked how they titled that together. Like, it was such a great job. I definitely want to see more movies from this filmmaker. I think that both the aspects of realism in the movie were fresh and new, and I think important in film today, but also the subject matter, because the person could have just made a movie about Neil Armstrong going to the moon, because it's a huge thing. He's the first person to walk on the moon. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge deal, huge technological advancement. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Yes, but like these other steps that he took in his life were equally, if not more important. And to marry those two things together just was a lovely bit of filmmaking.
Yeah, it really was nice. And then a secondary thing that I thought was nice was not only apparently teaching me and anybody else out there like me everything that went into this mission, but also honoring the lives that were lost leading up to this mission because there were so many tests and things that had to be done. They honored the people by we showing the people that died, and there were people that died in the test, and I just didn't know that. So
Yeah, and the tests
grateful to know
they
that.
weren't like they did. It would be like you would be doing anything. You're doing
Yeah.
the best you can to keep people safe. You obviously don't anticipate that people are going to die, but
Right.
things happen, and that happens in life. I mean, that happens in everyday life. Like there was a part of the movie where kids were asking if he's going to come home from the moon, and he's got to tell them no. But in truth, we all know that when Dad goes to the store, he might not come back too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it dealt with a lot of those issues that, well, are particular to the case of doing something great like going to the moon. I think they're also particular to just life here on Earth, and how it's important and responsible to be vulnerable and share with each other, talk to each other, and love each other while we have each other.
You want to do something by yourself?
Sit down.
That's not accurate.
You're getting ahead of the curve.
Anyway, okay.
Sorry. Just cut my leg off. Kiss me.
Okay.
Do it now.
All right.
What do you want? That's that now.
I'm not ever going to use that. It's just like our spacing. You don't have to make a weird face. You can just, okay. Just move to the middle or move over to the right.
Good?
Yeah.